Hi, my name is Paul Sim. I'm with Solar Pool Technologies. What we're doing today is to show you how to remove the control panel from a SolarBreeze NX and also to replace the battery. The control panel is the area that has the label, of course, with the on and the off switch. Turn it on, of course, the unit moves. So to replace the control panel, you'll need a number 10 Torx screwdriver bit. In this case, I'm using an electric drill or electric screwdriver with an extension and a bit. You can use just a hand screwdriver as well to do this if you need, but this makes it a little bit easier if you have an electric. So there's 12 screws that hold the control panel in place, and so all you need to do is just remove these 12 screws. And you can just go around in a clockwise or counterclockwise manner if you want to remove the screws. When you put them together, I'll show you when you put the control panel back on, it's good to do it in a way that keeps an even pressure on the panel as you're replacing it. But when you're removing it, it doesn't really matter which order you're removing the screws in. 2 more to go here. So there you go. So you can just set those aside over here on your table. You'll need those to replace it. And this control panel just pulls up, and you can see that the wires come in from the wire harness. The battery here is glued in place. There's a desiccant package that keeps the moisture out of the chamber. And then the printed circuit board is screwed to the back of the control panel as well. And there's a gasket here that helps to seal the moisture from getting into the electronics chamber. Of course, you don't want moisture where your battery and printed circuit board are. So now that you've loosened the control panel and you've put it into this position, you need to remove the connectors, the 2 wire harness connectors, 1 on each side, and the battery connector from the printed circuit board. And to do that, just kind of reach in with your fingernails, wiggle it back and forth. You want to not necessarily pull on the wires, but try to pull on the connector itself so that it comes off. And same thing on this side. There you go, it comes off. And then grab this connector and also pull it off. So there you have it. The printed circuit board screwed to the back of the control panel. The control panel is loose, and you've separated the wires from the printed circuit board. You may occasionally need to replace the battery in the SolarBreeze NX as well. And so once you've removed the control panel and disconnected all the connectors, you'll find that the battery, of course, is glued in place with some hot melt glue. So you'll need a tool like a wood chisel just to pry up a little bit to break away the glue. You can see that in the old battery. You take it out. The new battery should arrive in a package that looks something like this, very similar. When you put the battery in, the wire goes towards if you're looking at it in this direction, the left-hand side of the SolarBreeze. Simply set it in place. Set it so that it's edged towards the left-hand side, not necessarily right in the center, but edged towards the left-hand side a little bit. And once the battery's in place like this, you'll need a hot melt glue gun. Take a little bit of hot melt glue and just run a bead like this along the front edge of the battery. That'll hold it in place, and also a little bit along the back edge of the battery also, and that will help hold the battery in place. Give a second for the hot melt glue to dry and just set a little bit. And then once that's set and you're ready, reattach the wires to the control panel. You have your battery and your 2 wire harness cable connectors. So first of all, we'll do the battery. And you see that there are 2 guides on one side of the battery connector. And you want those guides to be pointed towards the control panel. And then you line up the 4 pins and then just slide that in. You can kind of hear it click in place. Give it a little tug just to make sure it's there. And then do the same with these as well. Once again, the guides go towards the control panel. You line up the holes with the pins on the connector and just slide it and push it in place. You may have to get both hands involved here. There you go. Slide it and push it in place. Once again, a little tug, make sure it's connected, and then do the same on this side also. Guides towards the control panel, line up the pins, and slide it in place. Give it a little push, make sure it's connected. So now you're ready to install the control panel back on as well. Now if it's an older unit, you would probably also replace this gasket. I expect we would send you a new gasket like this one. Simply put it around the control panel like this. You'll notice there's a part of the gasket that settles into the groove on the control panel area here. So you just make sure that that's well seated into the groove. So now you have the control panel, the printed circuit board, the wires connected, and all we need to do now is to screw it back down in place. When you do that, you want to make sure these wires don't overlap with the gasket. Otherwise, the gasket won't seal properly. So press it back down into place. Try to make sure the wires are inside the chamber. Before you start to screw it, just take a little look from this side to ensure that none of the wires are overlapping with the gasket. Press it down into place. And then I like to, we really need to put the two bottom corner screws in place first. And that'll just help to make sure that the control panel stays in place. So we'll get those two done. And then I like to do the upper two corners next. And then the top and bottom. Start with the bottom to make sure it's well positioned, and then the top. And then we'll do the two side ones. I've got this torque wrench set at about 15 on a Hitachi screwdriver. If you're doing it by hand, just make sure they're probably as tight as you can screw it by hand. That way you'll make sure the gasket, the control panel, is well sealed against the gasket, because you don't want, of course, any water coming between in the area between the control panel and the gasket. So it'll be well sealed. Just tighten it as tight as you can by hand. So the last one goes in, and away you go. Now you're ready. Turn the unit on to test. You notice everything is working, the front paddle wheel, the rear paddle wheel. You notice here the status light is flashing red, and this indicates that the battery actually has a low charge. So the battery we just installed wasn't charged to operating level. So just set it in the sun, let it charge a little bit, and eventually it'll be ready to roll. So that's how you would replace your battery.